Well, first of all, thank you, Chuck. I'm Jon Freedman. I'm based here in Washington, where I lead global government affairs and partnerships for GE's water business. It's a great honor to be here. Amanda, thank you. Thank you to Arizona State University, to the American Society of Mechanical Engineers, and everyone else who had a role in this. Okay. I'm also wearing a second hat today, which is I'm on the board of the Water Reuse Association, which is actually very relevant to today's conversation. Pat Sinacropia, the executive director, is here. Hi, Pat. And so listen, Steve, you and Tim, you talked a little bit about how critical water is to the manufacturing process and the need for expanded infrastructure. I'm going to talk about how we can take wastewater and treat it so we can help drought-proof industry in our nation. And first thing is, GE, everybody's heard of GE, right? Right. Many people don't know GE has a water business. Well, it does for the next 2 days, and I'll explain that at the end. But let me just say that today, GE has 50,000 water customers in 130 countries, and it's one of the world's leading manufacturers of advanced water treatment technology. One of the things we're really focused on is treating wastewater for reuse. And that's because, well, I guess Congressman O'Halloran talked in the beginning, we're seeing increasing scarcity in many places around the world, including here in the US and places like Arizona, and Tim, you said in Texas. But the world is only reusing 4% of its wastewater. And Pat, I think Water Reuse has figures saying that in the US, it's like 6 to 8%. So in effect, what we have is, on one hand, increasing scarcity, and on the other hand, this largely untapped reservoir of wastewater that if we treat it, we can reuse it to run our manufacturing process pretty much forever. And by the way, the more water you use, the more wastewater you generate, and the more water reuse you can achieve. So it's kind of a virtuous cycle. Now, if you take membranes and filters, you can actually recover 50% or more of wastewater. If you use thermal technologies, which are energy intensive, but zero liquid discharge, you can really get up to about 100% of wastewater recovery for reuse. And you can use that water not only for manufacturing, but you can actually grow crops with it, and you can even fill our drinking water reservoirs. And by the way, San Diego is looking at a program to do that today. But here's the thing. Of those 50,000 customers I mentioned we have, only a relative handful are reusing water today. And so we asked them, why? Even in increased areas of increasing scarcity, why don't you want to implement reuse technologies? And what's the answer? Audience participation, if you want. Cost, exactly. It is simply cheaper, this is what they say, to take more water from the ground or a river where it might be free, or even a potable municipal system where it is almost universally underpriced, than it is to buy and implement reuse technologies. So there's actually a huge opportunity for government to play a role in implementing new policies that will promote greater reuse. And that's why about 1.5 years ago, we released a report highlighting 150 examples of where governments have put policies in place around the world promoting greater reuse. And in effect, it's a menu of policy options because, Tim, I think you said water is regional, right? And so every region has different dynamics and they can figure out what policy would apply in their region. But they fall into 4 main categories. One is education outreach. In other words, explain to people it's not only important to reuse water, but it's safe. Second, remove barriers like pricing schemes where actually reward greater use of water. The more water you use in some jurisdictions, the lower unit price you pay for water. It makes no sense. Third, provide incentives. And there are lots of examples of that here in the US where we're already doing that. Or fourth, you can simply mandate reuse, and we've seen examples of that too in the cases of severe drought. Now, what I want to say is it's important not just to talk the game, but actually to lead by example. And so GE, through its global environmental sustainability initiative called Ecomagination, set a goal of reducing its own water consumption in the 160 countries where it operates by 25%. Today, it has reduced consumption by 45%, and it's still going. So it's helping to drought-proof its own manufacturing operations and also helping the environment. And finally, what I want to say is that in 2 days, GE will close on the sale of its water business to another great company called Suez Group. which is the world's largest water services company. It's now adding a technology unit that will be based here in the U.S. And so I'm going from one great company to another, whose mission, by the way, is to promote a circular economy. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Jon.